Hi everyone. Listen, it's September. Give me a second. I'll have to tell you what the date is if I can read it. I think it's 17, 2020. There is something that I was just sitting here visiting with my mother about. Uh, Arm is doing better. I got it wrapped up. Had an intrusive wasp colony that would by a bigger, greater wasp colony. Isn't that the way it goes, right? You got this colony that's doing just great. Everything's just fine. We're not bothering each other. Nature is as nature does. And next thing you know, all of a sudden, a bigger and more aggressive, intrusive colony comes along, whatever it may be, and it takes over and causes disruptions. And I got to thinking about this, and I'm going to talk about it because I've never videotaped this, but I'm going to tell you about what happened to me. Now, this is a true story because that's all I do is true stories. I don't sit here and make up things because in these days and times, you don't have to make up things. And so that while I am to the point where I am rarely ever able to leave, we're going to do it like this because to try to do any better, they'll labor me into it. And we're going to do reality because this is the way they got me. Okay, so anyway, not what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about. I was living at these townhouses, and they're kind of on the outskirts of Elk City. And there's like three sets of buildings, and then each set has four townhouses. So here's the first three set. The back faces Country Club. And then across from us, thoroughfare, three more buildings. On the back side is another one building. Across from it, one building. So, total 8 buildings. Good numbers. 8's a good number. I lived in the middle building, and the middle of that building was my backyard facing Country Club. I loved it out there. I had wheat fields, pea fields, pastures, cows, trees, black bark trees with green leaves. It was a beautiful place to live. And so, anyway, there, yeah, this is where that I learned a lot more about life than what you could ever think about meets the eye. I had worked all night long, and it was around about 10 o'clock in the morning, 9:10. And for those of you who know about gang stalking and targeting individuals, you know that what I am talking about, you know that I'm telling the truth. Everyone else, I hope you can catch up because if you don't know about this, you're really way behind. Okay, so anyway, thought nourished my head. Oh, I've worked hard all night long. I deserve a break. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, just take, it'd be nice to go for that walk that you like to take, where I walk westward down the sidewalk. When I get to the end, I'm overlooking the pastures and this gentleman's cattle, and I've kept his pastures cleaned up. I've gone out there with trash bags, picking up all the glass bottles and the tins and everything else, so those babies out there aren't going to get harmed, and that it looks like it should look like, instead of like a bunch of thugs who are inhabiting a place that they have no business being in. And so, yeah, regular basis. I kept that, well, more than just that filled. Anyway, so as I'm walking down, now I got this next building down from me that has it's not paved, the entrance into it. A 15-year-old kid, this dad moves in. 2 weeks later, he leaves his 15-year-old son and moves in with a girlfriend. Now, you got a 15-year-old kid there, a teenager, what unsupervised, what's going to happen? So anyway, I was walking down the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I seen this kid pop up from behind this vehicle across the thoroughfare. And at first I thought it was Jerry, one of the kids that lived there, and boy, here he comes. Boy, he's hopping in the can, and oh, here we go. Yeah, yeah, that's my name. That's my name. How you know my name? Now this is back when that I just kind of smoked, a little bit here and there. I quit in 2004. Once in a great while, a cigarilla. Don't really smoke them anyway. You just preferably let them burn and enjoy the cherry wood aroma from them. But anyway, I reach the end. Now I'm in my western hat, my gold western hat, and I'm highly well dressed. And just about like it is on the Matrix, this 16-year-old kid starts quivering and he goes, "You know who my daddy is? You know who my daddy is?" And I mean, he's back forth, this up into my face. I don't care who your daddy is. But then, well, my daddy's a very important man. He's a very important man. Here he goes, hopping and jumping, hopping and jumping. Important man. Yeah, he's a very, very important man. But then, I'm getting some water. Then, here comes like a seizure, like in the Matrix. He's a police officer. Now he's a police officer. He's an officer. Yeah, he's a police officer. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're a police officer. Here we go. And he does this again. And now, not only is he a police officer, but he's also works for Elk City Police Department, which, yeah, here we go. Oh, not only are we a police officer, but you work for this police department. Now, there are sisters and brothers on this department. And let that be a clue what I just said. And so, no, brother, boy, they got a hold of you, and I know what's going on. And so then here he does another seizure, and he's demanding ID, and he's too aggressive now. And I turn around and I start walking back, and I said, you want some ID? I'm gonna give you some ID. And all of a sudden, in comes this kid who had been left with a townhome to live in, and other juvenile buddies living there too. Pulls up and kid gets out, and I said, if you don't want to be going to a funeral the next 2 days, you better get your friend here off of me. About that time, a friend of mine comes out, and he's in that fourth building. Bob is a stocky man, and we're very good friends. I've helped care for his children, and I've helped care for him when the medical field wouldn't. And so I look at Bob and I tell Bob, I said, Bob, we got a problem with this kid. I said, get him off of me. I said, I'm fixing to go up to my house. I said, I'm going to make a call. About this time, here comes this white car, kind of a clunker, comes to a screeching halt, and she's yelling at him, to get in, get in, get in. I mean, yelling at him. And so this is enough of a diversion that I break through. I get to my house. My phone is just 10 feet inside the door. I'm on the phone with dispatch, giving them all the information, description. I step out, and it's as if nothing occurred. You can't even hear a bird singing in the morning time. It is pin drop dead still quiet. But between the two buildings across from me, I see the back end of this cruiser. And it comes around, and I just sit there and I just in the call with the dispatch. And yeah, they got the cruiser in stealth mode. The only way that you, unless seeing it, the only way that you could hear it is the rocks popping beneath the tires. And the officer pulls up next to me and says, "Any problems going on here?" And I said, "None that you don't already know about." And his mouth kind of dropped open. He wasn't expecting that. And I just turned around and I walked back into my house. That's why, folks, that when I see people who are acting out of character, that I have leniency on them, because that I know that the probability of them being under control is something that is beyond their powers or knowledge to be able to fight off. But I help them. I teach how to be able to fight that, how to know when AI is intrusive, because I've watched it tear my family apart. It ripped us apart, and that's back in a time that we had no idea about how deep all this stuff went. But I know, and this is why that I've gone through so much that I know the spiritual laws, and I know what people can do to help fight against this. Even, may not be able to do much about the body morphine. They can make you look skinny as a rail and very sickly, and people don't want to be around you. Or that they can make you heavy set and think that, oh, yeah, yeah, you need to run some, you need to do some laps. You need to eat less of this or do less of that. It don't have anything to do with what you eat or drinking. It has everything to do with how and what program they hit you with. And there are many out there who know exactly what I'm talking about. And I have, yeah, no wonder my sites get hit so often, right? How they can put things together and be ghostwriters and try to lead people into thinking, oh yeah, yeah, she's the mental one, honey. I ain't the one making a 16-year-old kid think that him dancing around a parking lot at an end of a sidewalk to a stranger, that his daddy is an important man. I should know him, and that he's a police officer. I no, no, I ain't the mental one. But I know the ones who sit there. I know the ones who do those things. I know them, and I have shared about how to have power over them. And if you'll follow it, because let me help you with those who don't know me from way back. When people followed what I directed, what I shared, because I had to learn how to fight that. When they did it, when they followed it, then their lives became very successful against these gang stalkers and these manipulators, because yeah, there are people who get paid to have a relationship with you so they can destroy what you work so hard to have. And it was so successful that within 24 hours they completely killed every form of communication that I had. There was no way that I could even put in a telephone call to a friend. So anyway, I just want to share that story. I want this recorded. Needs to be recorded. Understand also that, if they can do that with people, what can they do with animals? That's like I had that wasp nest. That wasp nest was a little bitty wasp. The phenomenal thing that my mother and I, that what we were so intrigued with them. One is that they were very determined that that's where they're going to be at, is between our inside outside door. And they were very small wasps. And it was like, no problem. Now, one had gotten in. Of course, that's going to happen. I've caught them and held them with a glass up to the nest. They got up there. One got on my mother's, on the back of her neck, and evidently her robe collar come up. It bit her. Didn't sting her. It bit her. Hey, I'm back here. So hey, yeah, I capture it, and take it to the nest. No problem. No problem. Didn't hurt my mother except for a little bite. But all of a sudden, well, I tell you what, even at one point, nest was getting a little bit big, and we're projected to them, you know, there ain't much room between these two doors. Little too big here. And my mother's sister, she goes, "Did you notice all the stuff that's on the door frame?" Yeah, at the bottom. And I go over and look, and I'm looking at the wall, and they're literally trimming the outside of the nest. Literally trimming the outside of the nest, cutting the nest down to where the outer and inner door is not banging up against it. They're not oversizing. They're not taking over. Nothing. These, these are the wasps that we've had here for several years. Love them. Absolutely. They're great. Fantastic. But then I made the mistake of talking about this one time on Facebook. And the next thing that I know is that those wasps that were about that big now were that big. And the wasp that was about this big is now that big. And it was not so kind, and it was very hard to destroy it. But it used to be that you could be around a lot of nature and not have to be concerned about it. But because that they have the technology to be able to make humans act in the way that this kid did, that I am always having reservations when I come across any type of animals. Dogs, even that look happy, can sit there suddenly change. A few years ago that I agreed to train a friend's horses and get one that was trained back up to snuff. But I kept having this feeling that this horse could be at any minute hit with that type of direct energy technology, and I'm in a full blown bronc riding contest. And I've never lost one, I've never been thrown, but it's not a place I want to be. So, anyway, this is as much as I wanted to go. I went a little further, but this is, you guys understand now. And by the way, I'm going to share this one aspect with you all. Um, there is a color that is very soothing and very, it draws out the best, not only people but also animals, and will even do so with insects. And even how that I helped an injured hawk that allowed me to wrap my hands around its wings, get it into a box, and take it to somebody who knew how to help its injury. And that is the color yellow. And when you think about that color yellow, that's the color that your energy level is bringing up. And if you had infrared camera, you would see that that is a dominant sudden color, yellow. It is called the most innocent childlike color in the aura spectrum, because those who have that more dominant color, well, this is, now you understand why children and animals kids throw their arms around your legs and hang on to you, and animals want to be in your arms or in your lap, like my mom kids and pets alike are, instant magnet, just sit back and enjoy, watch her, have fun, play with them. I tell you, she's one of the most beautiful women to watch, especially with children, babies, animals. They would, every single one of them, if they had an opportunity, they'd come live with her. We would be the mother living in the shoe. So, anyway, um, I hope that this helps bring some insight to you all. You think about it, because I tell you, I have a lot of forgiveness for people, because I know what's going on, and I know that if it was not for it, there would be a lot of things that would not be happening. And we're needing the masters such as I to help define what is not, what should not be, and what should be permanently removed. It must be. And above all things is you got to start understanding that you are a lot more powerful than what you think you are. There are so many things put in our pathway to dummy us down, that so that we have no, how you going to rise up against something like what they've got. Well, it's also energy, electromagnetic energy. That's the key. The body is of electromagnetic energy. This is why they say one person can affect the thinking of an entire world. That is true. That's true. Now, put to good use. Good overcomes evil. Evil falls. And adults, take your most primary stance, because one of our greatest duty is to protect children. That is reason the why that kid, that I did not use my abilities on him. I could have done it, but he was not at fault. But there are those who are, and maybe the day will be granted that there isn't anybody that's going to be sent on their behalf or willing to do what they want them to do, sacrifice them, as if they'd be big enough to meet me face to face. So anyway, take care of your loved ones. Understand, get you a magnet, piece of aluminum can. See if you can pick it up with a magnet. Think about that a lot and take it from there. Keep your loved ones safe and wish you all well. Good night, everyone.